Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Coming up.
I can imagine the existential questions that have been coming up. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Can I be doing that? Like, who do I have to be now? What does that mean for me?
A world that only Alex inhabits.
You don't have peace at home. You don't have peace outside of home. You don't have peace at work. Where do you find peace?
You're listening to The Hurt Locker, a podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. For tonight's guest, we have Alex Holmes. Alex, welcome to The Hurt Locker.
Hi, Yinka.
How are you doing today?
I'm happy to be here. It's a very interesting month, isn't it? It's when we start kind of going into the whole men's mental health area and everyone, and it's talking about International Men's Day, and a lot of these various conversations are being had across platforms like LinkedIn and other spaces. And I've just been really sitting in that for like the past couple of weeks, just thinking like, what does it actually mean to experience International Men's Day? But also, it's really cold here now, and I'm just not feeling it. Don't like it.
I hear you.
Yeah, it's awful.
I'll be honest with you. I found a small room myself to be ensconced in and keep warm because it's cold today.
Yeah. Oh man. So we're at that time of the year already. This year has gone by so quickly, but yet it's been a very long year at the same time. So it's it's all coming together.
So for the benefit of our listeners, who is Alex Holmes?
Who is he? So Alex Holmes is a lover of the community. He is somebody who wants to make a difference, who wants to lead with purpose and wisdom. He is a son, he is a brother, he loves community work. And as far as what I do in that, I navigate through the field of hypnotherapy as both a hypnotherapist and a hypnotherapeutic coach, whereby we work we use hypnosis therapeutically. So that just looks like working with various elements of the subconscious and internal worlds to help people get from one place to the next. Hypnotherapy, clinically, typically is, if used psychotherapeutically, it goes from the past to try and understand the past and trying to understand the present through the past, and through the coaching, it's trying to figure out what the future could look like from the present. So, I think I was writing something the other day, and I spontaneously wrote this line that says, I deal with time quite a bit.
Okay.
And I was like, very interesting. And when I think about it, I'm very nostalgic. I am very time conscious a lot of the time. And when working with clients, it's always something to do with either their past, their present, or their future, as you expect, working in counseling or therapy or coaching. So I work with time.
So what led you down the route of clinical hypnotherapy as opposed to psychotherapy or counseling?
Well, I'm in the process of my full training as a psychotherapist. So the course that I'm doing, it begins with hypnotherapy first, then counseling, then psychotherapy, and just to get the depth psychotherapy towards the end of the program. So I don't know how hypnotherapy fell into my lap, but it did. And it was something that I had seen, but I didn't know too much about. I started training in 2021, and it was something that I didn't really know much about. And when I went through a process of hypnosis and learning more about myself and accessing my internal worlds and really looking at how this could help me, but also how this could help a lot of men in the process, I sat down and thought, actually, this is a really, really useful tool to work with, just as another modality, as another format to get us accessing and really reconnected back with our body and the experience as well. So I stumbled into hypnotherapy pretty much, but I'm on the full psychotherapy track to get the full psychotherapy qualification.
Okay, so the intention is to combine the psychotherapy with the hypnotherapy
Right.
in of itself to be
Yeah.
more, would it be fair to say, more rounded in terms of your toolkit, your tool bag, aspects that you can pick into
Yeah.
to support the people who come to you for support?
Yeah, for sure. But I really enjoy the hypnotherapy side. So yeah, I think the whole process is pretty much about knowledge and then application and what this means with working with somebody's life, right? So I guess once you get your head around the theories and the particular theories and particular processes that people come into the room with, you use them accordingly. So I'm being trained integratively, humanistically, with a person-centered approach. So whatever the client brings into the room, we work with where
Absolutely.
they're at and their needs, and they're the expert in their own lives. So yeah, it is a well-rounded toolkit. But also, it's just like I love stories and I love metaphor and I love kind of journeying with people in that way. So it's just another way for me to like apply my writing to the work as well and really engage in that.
So tell me, Alex,
Mhm.
growing up, where was that for you?
I grew up in northwest London, Wembley, in fact,
Okay.
and I still do live there. I went to university in Nottingham and I studied languages. I traveled quite a bit because of that. So I ended up in France and Spain, in the Indian Ocean, parts of Europe, and I just had a breadth of experience. And a lot of my studying was around communication and languages and interpretation. And then I was teaching abroad after university, and then I came back and I went straight into journalism.
Okay.
So yeah, so I went into journalism and I ended up working in newspapers for
Okay.
about 5 years until the pandemic.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more. Let's dig a bit deeper in terms of growing up. Who was
Mhm.
at home for you in your
My mum, my dad, my sister, and my two cousins who came to live with me when I was around 10. And my maternal aunt, my mum's sister, passed and took in my cousins with us. And it was that kind of, what do you call it? In the Caribbean community, there's this kind of unofficial fostering kind of
Yes.
experience that goes on. You take in people, they grow up with you. It's the play aunt, play uncle kind of thing. But extended family, family friends, all this different stuff. And that was the experience I had growing up. It was like, as much as I had my siblings, and they very much are my siblings, we had cousins, we had aunts, uncles, godparents. It was like every week was a busy week in some way. There was somebody in and out, someone coming or us going to and fro. So yeah, that's pretty much what life was like growing up. And
Okay.
I'm the oldest, so
You're the firstborn,
I am the firstborn. Yeah.
and that I'm assuming carries with it a lot of responsibilities and expectations.
Yeah, that carries with it a lot of responsibility in that I had to model what it meant to be a good child. Um,
Can I
well,
unpick that?
yeah, I had to go on.
When you say that specifically, good
Mhm.
child,
Mm,
it tells me there's certain parameters within which you can operate in, and any deviation outside of that
mhm.
is seen as a I'm going to say a faux pas, as it were, at this moment in time, but it's seen as a misstep.
I think that there are particular parameters that you have to adhere to, especially within the Black community. There are things that are required of you, and especially, and if we're going very specific in the Caribbean community, there are things that are required of you. And it is a matter of safety sometimes. It is a matter of when you go outside, I don't want you to encounter danger in a way that we as in a previous generation to us, as in to me, would have experienced or would have physically had to experience, and they don't want that for us. So there is a level of behavior that we have to embody. There is also just a meeting of family values, a meeting of you have a responsibility as an eldest son to your other siblings and to your parents. So there are things that you must do. There are checkpoints. There are ways. If you're not leading, you're not setting an example.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like, if you're not doing that, then obviously that's valued as good and bad.
Yes.
Which I always, which when I'm working with clients, we look at these conditions of worth, and we look at these ideas of what good and bad really is. And when I'm working with young men, I'm asking them, what do they, I'm very specifically teasing that out. It's like, what does a good man look like? And they have to kind of understand where their values are coming from in that way. And
did you find it constraining then as a young Black boy growing up?
Constraining in that I was an overachiever, and consistently sought external validation for the things that I did, and never felt, for a long time, there was this feeling of not feeling good enough and not feeling as if there was something that I could do that would be okay in the eyes of my observers. So whether that be my parents or any other family members, my grandparents or whatever, or my friends or people that had some sort of stake in my self-esteem, I should say. So there was that feeling of not feeling good enough, not feeling as if there was anything that I could do that would be any better or any use to anyone. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to do that. You want to be as successful as possible. You want people to see you as someone who is at the top of their game, really. And I think that kind of builds into the whole masculine identity as to what that means for you on a performance level, I suppose. But generally, yeah, that is my experience with that. I think that keeping up appearances,
yes,
was a big issue that came up for me. That I had to address really, really early, because there was nobody for me to look up to other than my parents. But then my siblings had something to look up towards in the birth order. So I could only look up to my parents, and my parents were adults and, pretty much accomplished in various parts and unaccomplished in other parts, and it was like, well, what am I looking at? So I'm always looking at elders to figure out who I am and who I could be. But it takes a while for you to understand who you are by your own standards rather than the standards of other people.
So I'm just thinking, you mentioned about conditions of worth, you speak about self-esteem, etc., that it's external locus of evaluation. And I'm wondering there, did you receive that validation from your elders, from your parents,
well,
the extended family?
Well, I look at it like this. Particular families can only access love through acts of service. So particular people, and it is very specific in, like, not specific, but it's quite common in ethnic minority or global majority families, etc. There is a thing where the expression of love isn't as open or as vocal as it would be in, some other cultures. But my personal experience is that, if we did have those expressions of love, but when it comes to acts of service, doing things for another person, when you are asked to do something, you do it. It then becomes a thing where that's what gives me the recognition. Your only objective when you go to school is to learn. So when you go to school, come back with something that I don't have to worry about. When when you put your mind to anything, do it and come back with something that I can see as a product of what we're sending you there for. But I think that one of the things I did find and thought about as I grew older and went through my whole therapy journey and started looking at life in a particular way was that I wonder what it would have been like to be able to follow my own curiosities very early.
Okay.
And I think that while I did have that experience for a while, because there was a really calm period of my life as a child before it became quite chaotic, I was able to explore in a very particular way.
What did that curiosity look like? Being curious, the exploration of that?
Solitude. It looked like spending time by myself and thinking. I spent a lot of time thinking as a child, but I read a lot of books. I remember I just had like a childhood encyclopedia, like a kid's encyclopedia, and I would just read all those things. And people would always be like, "Oh, you're so knowledgeable. You're so this and the other." And I'm quite good at general knowledge itself because I just sat down and I would just like randomly be reading books and reading encyclopedias around like volcanoes. Like there'll just be the chapter on volcanoes. That's what I'm just looking at today, and I just found that interesting. Like, what else could there be more interesting than this sort of thing? Well, yeah, but my curiosities, I think that, and I wrote a piece about this on my Substack this week around, I went for a walk on last weekend, and I go for a monthly walk with my friends, and that's the time where we spend to catch up and really check in and see what's going on with each other, and we just walk and talk for a while, and then we eat, and we got into a conversation about hobbies, and when I thought about it, I was like, I actually was doing a lot of things when I was younger. I played instruments, plural. I played sports, plural. I did those to competitive levels and to particular grades. I put my hand to a lot of different things, whether it be performing arts or creative stuff like photography or sketching or painting, music production. I did a whole load of different things growing up. I settled pretty much on writing, but I've got deep interest in so many different areas. So I did follow my curiosities to an extent, but they quickly became private. The things that I really enjoyed, like the writing, the music, the photography, reading, those things became really private and close to me.
Was that an internalized escapism, as it were?
Oh, absolutely.
A world that only Alex inhabits.
Yeah, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Okay.
And that's the place my mind goes when I crave safety, right? People will be like, "Why are you watching this film again? Why are you reading this book again? Are you not tired of this thing? Like, there's nothing else." And I'm like, look, I will not be tired of this thing. I will watch it and I will repeat the same line from that thing over and over again.
Absolutely.
It's a grounding place for me. It's a grounding place for me. And I think that it spoke to a very particular time when I was turning 10, when it came on when it came to the cinema, and I started reading it when I was around 9. So there was like this whole journey as a young person that was taken up through that space, right? And that opened up a world of so many different books for me. So that really kind of started me in on my reading journey. So I read loads of books and was reading loads of books when I was younger because I was escaping into those spaces. And because those spaces were what I could control in a sense.
Does that juxtapose itself or align itself against, you spoke previously about you had a period of calm in your life and then a period of chaos, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And did that correspond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, my mum and dad took in my cousins because my aunt passed away, and that was like the first big bereavement by which you could see something, like you could see a change, an active change in the family. Yeah. Like there was a whole across the extended family, across the immediate family, etc. You could see that there was a big shift in dynamic and how that altered the course of our futures, just generally just the way that we all thought. So I went into reading, and then I went into that. There was a whole load of there's huge elements around grief in the book. There's elements around love.
I'm curious, during that period of time, there's seismic change going on within the family, with the extended family coming in, and I'm wondering, did you have a voice with that change, or did you offer an opinion?
There was no opinion to offer.
Was it because it wouldn't have been tolerated?
I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I don't know. I feel that as a 10-year-old, my opinion probably wouldn't have been counted in a sense. But that's me thinking as both the me then and the me now as to what the reality would have looked like as an adult. Yeah, like I don't know whether that would have been, I mean, there were questions raised, oh, what would you think if such and such happened? And I'd be, oh yeah, cool, that'd be fine. You're a 10-year-old. You're gonna want you don't know what the ramifications of that is. You don't have a long-term understanding of what's going on. What does that mean? Does that then mean, like, are they then, do you have to now share a room? Do you have to go to school together now? Is there like what is that? What does that even look like? What does that feel like? And you don't understand that until you're in it. So, and my heart goes out to any parent or any guardian who has to kind of take that responsibility for their family and kind of create that space and create that change, because you are kind of stuck with making some new, like a new identity for yourself, a new idea, a new identity for your family. And at a tense time and as such as that, you kind of have to think to yourself, am I doing the right thing? I can imagine the existential questions that would have been coming up. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Can I be doing that? Like, who do I have to be now? What does that mean for me? Do I have to, you're thinking about a lot of different things, and you're carrying a lot. You're just trying to adapt as much as you can. And as the oldest, I saw the sacrifices that my younger sibling probably didn't see.
Absolutely.
And I saw the sacrifices. I saw the pain. I heard the conversations. I heard the stories. Like I was present for those things. So therefore, when you talk about when we go back to the conversation around the good son and what that looks like, because what the current burden is, you don't want to contribute more to the burden. Like you don't want to. So if I was to then be acting up, if I was to then be in turmoil with myself, if I was to then do that, that just adds another layer of something that is just even more disrupting to the system that you're in. So you then, so then you adopt a helpful approach, or you adopt an approach that looks a bit more emotionally responsible.
Okay. And I dare say that quiet space that you create for yourself with that curiosity enables you to have a safe space, not be antagonistic or confrontational in any way, shape, or form because of change. And I'm wondering whether or not you spoke about the validation. Does that mean, did your parents, did your extended family encourage the reading, your curious side? Or was that something that...
I don't know. I was never, I don't think I ever had like an active encouragement. Like there wasn't somebody, I don't think that there was like somebody who specifically sat down and said, "Oh, how's your reading going? Like, what are you reading now? What are you interested in? What does that look like for you? Like, what books can we get you?" Like, I don't think that there was a person in that space that was able to do that, who had the capacity for that, or even had the interest for that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the men and boys in my family were interested in the typical men and boy things. They were interested in sport. They were interested in sport. That was generally what they were interested in. And I was like, well, I can play sport. I don't necessarily have the attachment to sport that you guys do, but I do have the attachment to stories. And that was pretty much where I kind of sat with it all, really. I remember I was like, whenever my mum would go into like the local shopping center on a Saturday morning and I happened to just be around, I would go with and I would be like, all right, I'm cool. I'm going to the bookshop. I will see you there. This is where I'm going to be. And when I need you, I will find you. So just understand that that's the situation. Peace. You don't need me next to you, like going to all these other places. I'm going to be in the young adult fiction section, slowly progress into the crime fiction section, slowly progress into the general fiction section, slowly progress into non-fiction. That's where I will be for the next couple of hours. You don't need to worry about what I'm doing, really.
Okay.
So that's basically what I would do, and that would be my space, and that would be where I would go. But it wasn't until I started kind of like getting my own pocket money. My own pocket money went on books. It didn't necessarily go on trainers or clothes or anything. It went on books. To the point where it was like, well, are you not going to buy yourself any trainers? Instead of buying books all the time, you're not going to do that. And it became this kind of, then that's when the external validation thing comes in, because it's like, am I doing this wrong? Like, what should I be doing? I don't care for any of these brands. I don't care for any of those things. But like, now you're at school and now you've got your family or friends saying like, oh, you need to get these trainers, you need to get this jumper, you need to get this thing, you need to get that thing. And I'm like, I really just want Harry Potter 6. I really just want these books because there's just this one that is coming and I really want that one. And I'd be on mailing lists and I'd be in forums. So yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there is that peer pressure wasn't necessarily a consideration for you in that sense of what others of your age in school were doing.
Yeah, I couldn't be coerced into things. I couldn't be coerced into things, but I could be made to feel like I was on the outside. So I had to think quite strategically sometimes. If I was out with friends, I probably wouldn't go into the bookshop, even though I really wanted to. But I never had friends. I didn't have friends that read. You know, I do not recall a friend that I grew up with in secondary school ever having a book.
That must have been, I'm imagining that must have been difficult for you. Some of the conversations that you wanted to have but couldn't have at that time until you found I'm assuming later on in life you started to find your tribe or just at least go out into the wilderness.
Yeah, I never had growing up, it just wasn't that. Like, there was nobody in the family and there was no friends who really were like, oh my God, have you read that Harry Potter book? Like, I'm like, what is it? Like, what's going on? Like, there was never, I use Harry Potter as an example, but there was never anybody who was actively in my life who was engaged in the same things that I was engaged in. And even then, I had I had Pokemon, I had Game Boy, I used to collect the cards. I used to do all of those things. And there were some people who were there in that sense, but it wasn't. There wasn't like I never formed a deep friendship over those things.
Okay.
With anyone, it just wasn't that. Yeah.
And so, what about at the beginning? You spoke in terms of your position as being the eldest sibling, firstborn, as it were, and having to navigate the dangers that your parents undoubtedly would have experienced. How did you do that? Navigating the dangers, being a young black man.
I'm
making assumptions. I'm making assumptions here.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't think the way that I grew up and the kind of neighborhood that I grew up in and the people that I had around me and the occupations that I had that kept me busy. I'm telling you, like, for real, like, it was, when I think about this, the things my siblings and I were doing in a week, we never had time to be anywhere else but those activities and our house. So it was like, if it wasn't swimming, it was football. If it wasn't football, it was basketball. If it wasn't basketball, it was athletics. If it wasn't athletics, it was saxophone club or class or something. If it wasn't that, you're tired and you're at home. And if it wasn't that, you're at performing arts school or something, or college or whatever. So, so for me, I was like, I really didn't have the opportunity to be like outside like that all the time. So those things were really minimal for me. Like, I wasn't necessarily placed in any particular kind of external danger until like I was able to be, until I was able to like really go and search for those things. I think, like, not necessarily search for them, but be like 17 and then go into parties in places that I'd never been before to navigate my way home and all these different things, or getting to 18, 19 and leaving the city and then being, and kind of encountering the world in a different way. So it's just like a lot of different things that have been going on. But growing up, there was nothing. I knew I was black. And I knew that my experience was very much a black experience, but I don't think I necessarily had the deep or the typical experiences that most black boys had.
Okay.
And just based on my interests, based on the things, based on the people that I was around.
Okay.
Based on my parents, my siblings, so.
So how was it then for you going to Nottingham Uni and having a new space and being away from home, a busy household, etc., and being independent?
It was like being set free. And you're just like, oh my.
You're smiling as you're saying that.
Like, when, I don't know if you've seen Aladdin, but when Genie gets set free at the end and he has the cuffs come off and he's like, I'm free. I can do what I want. That's essentially what the feeling was. And I smiled because it was just like, I remember that day when my mum and dad and my siblings, or my sister, I think, and my nan drove off. When they left me at the halls. And
describe that feeling.
It was like
you are beaming as you're talking now. You know that. You literally.
Like I said earlier, I live in nostalgia, so there are points in my life that I'm anchored to, and I'm just like, okay, they're leaving, and I'm watching the car drive out of, like, leave the driveway. My mum's teary. My dad's like saying something like, behave yourself. go on, this is what we have to, this is what you're gonna have to do. My nan has done her prayers and all these different things, so she's like, he's good. And so yeah, and then I'm like waving goodbye, and now I'm like, this is what I have to call home now. These halls of residence, this is what I have to call home now. And I'm walking back up to the flat, and I'm like, I'm in this empty flat, and like I'm waiting for like other housemates to come, and like, because I've been moved in, I've been settled. My room was strategically placed in the hallway is split into two, so you have to go through another set of doors after my room. So people would always pass my room.
Okay.
So my door was always open. So people would always be like, "Hey, like, what's going on?" I'd be like, "Oh, hi, I'm X, Y, and Z," and then they tell me what they're up to, what they're doing, what they're studying, and then we will kind of like arrange something to do. Like we'll be like, "Okay, there's this happening in the city centre. Do you want to go? Let's figure it out." And then you're just trying to learn each other as you go and stuff. And it's just such a like it was. I'm just flashing back to just various parts of that first year, which was just super interesting. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Okay. Tim just said to me, Harry's in Hogwarts, as it were, you know.
Oh, Harry's in Hogwarts. Yeah, that's that feeling that everything's new. Like you just don't know how to. Yeah, you just don't know what's going on, and you're like, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Like now you got to go to the club. What does that look like? Or now you got to go into the student union in the day. Like now you got to go to lectures. Who's going to be on your course? Who's going to be there? Like you got to navigate the bus system in a new city. You got to figure out what's in the city so you can kind of like be like, all right, this is that, this is this. What kind of loads of things. So it was that feeling of both, oh my God, my parents are not here, but also, oh my God, my parents are not here.
Yes.
Like, you know,
yes.
so.
Yes. Did you enjoy university? Is that the wrong word to use?
What, enjoy?
Yes. What did university offer you?
University offered me the opportunity to meet new people and make friends that I have until this day.
Okay.
It got me the opportunity to understand myself on a deeper and an intrinsic level, to understand exactly who I am and what that means in the main. By no means had it all figured out by then. By the time I finished uni, I was still as confused as I was when I went in. But I think, I used to take videos a lot, and I used to take photos a lot, and I found a lot of them recently, and I was going through them, and I was like, that's why I'm smiling really, because I remember like those periods of being 20, 21, 22, and there's a spark because you're just like, things aren't that serious.
Okay.
But yet you are trying to figure out
things. Be serious.
Trying to be serious in a sense, but also there are things that you just kind of are allowed to do. You know, like when it was New Year's Eve, when it never, they used to, in London, they charge you now to go into the city, but like to go to watch the fireworks. But I mean, my friends, we used to drive down into the city, and we used to like watch the fireworks happen on like South Bank, and then we used to just be out until like whatever time in the morning, because the tube and trains are open New Year's Eve and day, and whatnot. And it's just like just little pieces of freedom in that sense, like going from place to place, going to see your friends at different halls in Nottingham, and going to see your friends in different areas. My extended family doesn't live too far from Nottingham either, so I was always popping down there. I could see my nan quite often. Just like I had a bit of a flexibility of like I can choose when to tap into family and tap back out. I can choose when I'm like how long I want to sleep in and when not to. That's the social part of university. I think university challenged me academically to start thinking critically about things a lot more. It opened up a whole new world of because obviously I did languages, so
Yeah.
it opened up a new space of culture and ideas and communication and what that means for me. That there are texts that I still kind of look back to today, especially as I kind of delve deeper into existential philosophy and existential psychology and thinking like around what that means. And I digging up, I'm just thinking, oh yeah, I remember doing this when I was like 19. Like, what was the author? And I would kind of go back through notes and just think, oh yeah, that was that. And back then, I never really had the grounding or the understanding or the life experience to kind of apply the wisdom. And now I'm like, actually, I understand that in a different way. So like, there are so many different things. The friendships, like I said, yeah, uni was a good time. And then when I went abroad after uni, that was even better. And then I came back and I somehow entered a world that was dark, serious, heavy, grey, suppressing.
It's funny. It's funny, as you began that part coming back from Europe, I felt then looking at you that your mood kind of changed.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about this, I came back to the UK in 2015, right? Brexit happened in 2016. Cost of living crisis happened 2017, 2018. 2019, I had several emotional like breakdowns. So 2018, 19 breakdowns at work. 2020, we ended up in a pandemic. Between 2020 and 2023, they were chaos years anyway because nobody knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
In that time, I'd written a book. I began studying. I began retraining. I began everything. I put myself in a particular position whereby I'm like, I'm not in a full-time career anymore. I'm kind of my life is quite flexible. It's quite fluid. But it's also quite unstable in a lot of different ways. You then emerge from that at like 20. Oh, so I'm 32 now. You emerge from that. You go into the pandemic at 28. You come out of the pandemic in your 30s. And you're like, where did the time go? And then it's like, so now we're in 2024 going into 2025. And it's like, what is actually going to come next? What's happening next? We've got, one of the most controversial presidents of the past 8 to 10 years being elected, being re-elected. We've had 15 years of austerity in this country itself. Yes. There's wars in the East. The Queen is dead. I don't know what's happening. Like, there's so much going on. Like, everything is just like.
Did that feel scary for you?
I had
apprehensive.
It was more of an existential crisis, to be fair. And I think we're going to be going through a huge existential moment. But again, all of the stuff that I'd been through and all the things that I'd experienced, they all kind of culminate at this point. If I hadn't have been through my own kind of existential anxieties, if I hadn't been through my own processes, like my own kind of emotional breakdowns at work, if I hadn't have been through this kind of moving back into my parents' house at 24, 25 and saying, I'm only going to be here for a couple of years and move out, but I'm still here kind of experience. If we hadn't have been through the pandemic, if I hadn't been through all of those things, I don't reckon I would have been in this space. I don't reckon I would have ended up in the mental health space. I don't think I would have ended up in a position where I can actually speak to men and help them.
Okay.
But also speak, because it's not just men that I support, but it's also like, but just exploring the emotional health landscape and just understanding what that looks like and the breadth of that, and just acquiring the tools that would allow me to get to support and help people in the main. So I look at it all and I think to myself, this all happened for a reason. It's just it's just like, I'm just hoping as a generation, as millennials anyway, we look at the world and we just think to ourselves, I think we're just over it. We've got portions of our generation who are married and having kids, who are single, who are still at home, who are in jobs they hate, and they are in either one of those 4 pockets, or they are crossed over in any of those pockets at any given point.
Okay.
Money's not going far enough. Our parents at our age had probably 2 kids in a house and all these other things by then, and we're kind of like not in that space. So we are tuggling with what that means to be an adult, what that means to look like, and on a deeper level, what that means to be a man, what that means to be a black man, what that means to be a person, all of these different things that are going on. So
can I you mentioned a couple of times that emotional breakdown. I'm wondering if that was predicated by pressures of your work and environment.
Several things. The culmination of working for organizations and papers that are 200 years old, that have particular cultures and understandings as to what life looks like to them and what they will propagate. So newspapers in the United Kingdom, the main newspapers, any of the main ones that you can think of, have been around for a long, long time. And they they are old boys clubs. They are typically white male dominated cultures, whereby it's like you step into that space, and if you don't conform, you are against. And because you're in that space, you kind of like have to figure out how you navigate it and what that looks like. But then you have to but then I was contesting being paid less. I was contesting not being trusted with the work. I was contesting prejudices, alienation and victimization in the place. So I'd walked in, I get the respect because I'm a man, but I also get dehumanized because I'm black in those spaces. And it's just like, it was just not an environment that I wanted to be in. It was like I would be given all of the stories that would depict black people quite negatively.
Yes.
And then I just began refusing those stories, and other people can write them and they can take the heat because they feel like, because he's black, he can write these stories. But every newspaper has its own angle. And because every newspaper has its own angle, the one that I was on had quite a sharp and very pointed, very specific Middle England conservative angle. So it was just nothing that I could really relate to in the main. When you've got, and then so there's a lot of those pressures. So you had those pressures from inside work, you had pressures from outside of work. So friendships, loneliness, not really having anybody to turn to. You're putting all of your effort and your time into work because you want, again, like I mentioned about, being
excel.
Wanted to excel. You're a high achiever. So you want everything, you want to do well. Then you start to surround yourself with other high achievers who are achieving better than you, quote unquote. So you're trying to keep up and match that in a sense. So you're doing that, and then you're back home. So then you're now like you're an adult, but you're still in your parents' home. So therefore, there's this shift in ego state. Really.
Yes.
So it's like, which would be parent, child.
Yes. Yeah.
Parent, child, right?
Yeah.
So you have that kind of experience where you're now talking. Now you're talking to a parent, but you're approaching them as an adult, and they're looking at you as a child. And then there's this kind of like tussle. There's an emotional kind of tussle that happens there. So now you're doing that. So my friend even said to me one time, she was like, "You don't have peace at home. You don't have peace outside of home. And you don't have peace at work. Where do you find peace? You don't have it." I'm just like, yeah. So then I got really stressed out, had anxiety attacks when I got to work. There was a point where there was the migrant crisis happening in Calais.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that. And
I remember that.
Yeah, I speak French. So but they were looking for someone to speak French, and I found myself not wanting to put myself forward because a previous incident at work meant that on a story meant that I kind of messed up, I think, and then I didn't metabolize that failure well. For me, my own personal failure. No one mentioned it ever again. Like no one. It was something that was such a small inciting incident in that, like, there's a faux pas with the photographer or something, and there was a relationship that the photographer has with other photographers, and he said I ruined that, and all this, and all these other things that were just coming at me. Me being new to the whole space, I was very like, have I messed up my whole future with all of this kind of thing? And I just couldn't keep up with the pressures. I'm being asked for deadlines and all this stuff. And on the way home, I'm driving home from a long way up from work, and I'm being asked when I'm going to when I'm going to be able to file the deadline and file this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm literally on the M25 home, and I'm in traffic, and I need to focus on the road and stuff like that. I can't give you an answer as to when I'm giving you the copy because I'm on the way back. All this different stuff. So there's a lot of pressure going on. And then so one of my head of news is looking for somebody, and I'm like panicking, and that kind of leads into a fully fledged panic attack. And that was the first time I had one out ever, but the first time I had one at work, and then it just happened again. And I realized it just wasn't for me. That environment just wasn't for me. I wasn't actually gaining anything from being in that space, other than being able to say I'm a journalist. I work in one of the top papers in the country. Outside of that, I hated it all. I hated everybody. I didn't like myself.
You didn't like yourself?
Didn't like myself in that space. I didn't like anybody in that space. I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. And
did it feel like a betrayal?
Not a betrayal.
Your authentic self?
It felt like... Did it feel like a betrayal of my authentic self? Yes, it did. But here's why. I felt like if I was in a different and a more nurturing environment, I could have really excelled.
But that was never going to be the case, though.
Wasn't the case in that one.
But you'd already laid out the landscape. It's 200 years old. It's established. So, it has this culture, etc.
Like, for example, if I'd entered into like magazines, for example, it's very competitive and it's very challenging. But I feel like the culture would have been slightly a bit more up my street in that kind of like edgy kind of like a bit younger, a bit more ideas focused kind of thing. So there's all of that. And I just thought, you know what, this is just not going to be what I want to do. So I moved from paper to paper for a while, realized it was the industry I didn't like and the people within the industry that I didn't like, left, wrote my book, ended up doing the podcast, and Time to Talk just became its own thing. And that's how it's panned out. But it's been a roller coaster of a journey, Yinka. Like it's been a roller coaster of a journey. And when I look at it, sometimes I just have to just think around, wow, so I've come so far.
I'm not going to ask you, have you found peace? I'm asking you, are you finding peace?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am a follower of Christ, and I find peace in His Word. I find peace in my faith and my spirituality. I find peace in all of that. I have been through so much internal and emotional turmoil that there had to be a place to go to put all of that. I mean, through therapy and through through the journey and through the process of like understanding self and the like, there was all of that. But I had to kind of figure out where I was spiritually, what my purpose looked like, who I am outside, and what that means. What that means in detaching myself from all of the nonsense, all of the noise, all of the mess, all of the chaos. Like, what does that mean? Who are we? And it's that gives me the fire and the drive and the passion to continue.
It gives you a sense of purpose.
It gives me a sense of purpose. It allows me to move with confidence. And nowadays, I have no idea where I'm going sometimes. And I'm like, I want to do this. Who's to say that will actually happen? Like what we said, I said, I'm doing hypnotherapy and the psychotherapy, and you asked, who's to say? I may just stop at the hypnotherapy and I may not even go any further. I may just literally just double down on that, and that might be okay. And that might have to be okay. I don't know. I have no idea. It's out of my hands, out of my control. But what I can control is what I'm doing now.
Okay.
I can control who I'm speaking to, what I'm working on, who I'm working with, and the kind of conversations I'm having. the things I'm reading, the things I'm learning. I pull myself away from a lot of social media nowadays. I don't have much of a stomach for it anymore.
Why is that?
Life.
And the answer is probably multifaceted.
It's multifaceted, but on a simple terms, it's that I don't like the inauthenticity of social media, and what that means for each person is very different. But for me, I don't like who I was when I was online. I don't like the absorption of all this content and things being forced on me. Things that are being forced on me in a way that says you should know this and you have to know this. Sometimes I'm like, I don't actually need to know about what's going on in your life. Like my friends, I don't want to have to follow them online to find out what's going on with them. Like I've had so many people, like I speak to some of my friends, like I found that being off social medias other than LinkedIn, obviously, but being off social media generally has been like, people be like, oh, check on your friend. I'm like, why? Oh, they're tweeting this way, da, 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 da. And I'm like, I was speaking to them yesterday. They're fine. I was speaking to them this morning. They're okay because I'm speaking to them as people. I'm not speaking to them as their Instagram handle or their TikTok handle or their tweet or their Twitter profile or whatever. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, when I see my friends, I'm going to them, I'm asking them genuinely, what is up? What's going on? How are you? Because I literally haven't seen you for a while. I know you're alive because I'm texting you, but I'm also just like, when I see you in person, I'm like, it's like, oh yeah, tell me about that. Tell me what's going on. Not, oh,
how I saw that you were.
Not that, oh, I saw that you were at X, Y, and Z. Tell me about.
Yeah.
I want that to come up naturally. I want that to come up authentically.
100%.
There's that side, but then there's also like, I don't know a lot of these people. I hate parasocial relationships as well. It's just like, I don't know a lot of these people, but then you start to become so attached to these people online. Oh my God, like, yeah, I've messaged them online and yeah, I know them. And when you see them in person, the energy just is a bit off because they absolutely don't know who you are. And like and likewise, people come to me and be like, oh my God, are you X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, yeah, who are you kind of thing? Like, oh, sorry, I need to explain who I am kind of. I'm like, yes, because that's how you greet people. You actually be like, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. I saw some of your tweets. I'm really interested in your way of thinking. Da, 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 da. That's how you approach somebody.
Okay.
Not are you X, Y, and Z.
Your introduction to therapy, was that a result of your employment experiences, or had there been something that had been in there? And I'm asking that on two counts, because in the main, the global majority don't attend therapy. They keep it in, particularly Black men. And so for you to take that step to say, yes, I need to sit down with somebody and talk about what's going on for me in my life, that's a departure.
A huge departure. I was one of the first people in my friendship group to start going to therapy. And then I began ranting and raving about it for ages. And then people started going to therapy and asking me how do they find a therapist and all of that jazz. My friend, the same friend that I said, oh, where do you find peace? And she basically was like, email this therapist ASAP. Emailed her, got into the therapy seat and just kind of went with it from there. So that was pretty quick on my end. Although prior to that, I did try and go through the borough because I didn't think I could afford therapy. So I had to spend a bit of time kind of saving up some money so I could like block book it, because I didn't want to start it and then not go back the next time. So I was like, let me try and block up enough for 10 sessions and then I will put that towards therapy. And that's what happened. I had enough for 10, and at least I would, after the 10, I will figure out what I want to do next. Amazing. Best decision of my life, clearly.
Why would you say that?
Because I'm now in training and I'm working with people in a way that I've actually experienced That's why I'm doing the work. Like, it was the gateway to that, because I had to understand my darkest parts in order for me to kind of be able to sit with other people's. And on the global majority front, in the black man front, that's a harder one, because there still just aren't enough examples or representatives in a lot of these friendship groups who are talking about the thing with their friends.
Absolutely.
There's not enough. And there's an inability, especially in the UK, there's an inability for black men to take action on a lot of things. There are a lot of active black men, and I know a huge amount of people, a huge amount of men, but there are a lot of black men who don't take action when it comes to their own mental health. And there are a lot of men I work with in general, across the race board, across the class board, who don't take action when it comes to their mental health and well-being. They will leave things to the last minute. They'll wait till crisis point, because if you ignore it, it will go away, is the philosophy. And it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. But when we know that there's a system that is inherently racist, and report after report will substantiate that as a claim, then there is a mistrust for people to enter that space and feel safe and secure. And that's the challenge.
I mean,
there's got to be a meeting from both sides.
There has to be a meeting from both sides, but at the same time, there has to be. And I agree. There has to be a meeting from both sides. But I also feel like when it comes to getting men in seats, or just getting men active in various parts of their lives, of their own lives, like, I work with a lot of young people, and a lot of young people recognize that their schools don't know who their dads are. You see?
Yes.
So, like, it's like, all right, your school don't know who your dads are. That's wild to me, number one. Number two, but you know, for various reasons. There's also just this thing like, oh, my dad was diagnosed with X, Y, and Z late, because there was an X, Y, because he didn't take action with his health, or my dad ended up, like, even me going to therapy, the first instance, it took my friend, a woman, to tell me to go and do X, Y, to literally write the email for me. Told me to copy and paste that email into another email. Here's the email address. All you've got to do is press send. That's literally what it took. And I look back on that and I think to myself, what was stopping me from actually just going forth and typing that? And I think that it was a lot of that, taking accountability for myself, taking that action for myself, taking that kind of thing. And I don't think a lot of men have that in them a lot of the time. They have it in them when it comes to earning. They have it in them when it comes to potentially finding a mate. They have it in them when it comes to
ego,
like going to the gym and ego and whatnot, but they don't have it in them when it comes to their emotional health and well-being, or their physical well-being. Not necessarily going to the gym, but getting checked out.
Can I ask, you used the phrase, and I'm paraphrasing, in a dark place. Were you suicidal?
I don't think I wasn't suicidal. I was depressed. I was heavily depressed. I wasn't suicidal though, but I do feel like if I'd maintained the way I was, I would have got there. And that's the scary part.
I was just about to ask you, how does that feel, recognizing that?
I'm so grateful that I didn't get there, but I'm keenly aware that I could have gotten there very quickly. I was engaging in quite destructive activities and behaviors, and it just wasn't conducive to my mental well-being at all. So yeah, and here I am, 2024, doing my thing.
So what's next?
What's next? Well, we're doubling down on the podcast. So Time to Talk with Alex Holmes is here. In the new year, there will be just more conversations, more things, meeting up and talking with more people, bringing more conversations to live audiences. So, keep in touch with me if you want to stay tuned for that. That'd be really dope.
Definitely.
Expanding out the practice, and trying to work with more people in groups, more people individually, working with more young men, so that's like 18 upwards. It looks like writing more and just leaning into the content more. When I say the content, I mean leaning into like researching more things around these areas and beginning to kind of like get those ideas on paper so that they can be interpreted in a more digestible way for a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, it looks like fun.
It
Looks
is
like
fun.
fun for
It
me.
doesn't
It
look
looks
like
like,
it is fun.
yeah. I
You
mean, it
wouldn't
is
do
fun.
it otherwise.
Yeah, it is all of that, and I'm just like, well, this is just it's just looking at how this is all kind of falling together, and I'm intrigued. I'm curious.
Okay,
I'm excited.
good. And I've just got one more question for you. Who is the most important person in your life?
First thing that came to my mind was Jesus, but then, so yes, it's Jesus. It's the most important person in my life.
Okay.
However, I feel like the second thing that came to me was me.
Okay, it's interesting you're
But
feeling that, because
that's
you know
like,
what? The answer is you. The most
yeah,
important person in your life is you. You're the expert of you. You
yeah,
know what makes yourself happy. You know what makes yourself sad. And only by attending to your needs, first and foremost, can you be fully there for the people who you
exactly,
undoubtedly love and care for.
exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, I was thinking the most important, and I was thinking, yeah, the most important person to me is me, because if I'm not in like on form for myself in various
100%.
areas, then I can't be there for other people.
100%.
Um, there's a lot of important people in my life, as you can possibly imagine.
Alex, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Hurt Locker. Really appreciate it. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
No, thank you.
The Hurt Locker is a safe space for our guests to openly share their mental health experiences. If you have been affected by any of the content in this recording, then please reach out for support. If it is an emergency, dial 999. If you would like to talk to somebody today, then please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Stay safe. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Hurt Locker. Please give us a rating or share with another listener. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hurt Locker Pod.